Guys, welcome back to the All-American Gridiron Online Summer Series. We're ready for our next session. We have sports psychologist Bobby Hall back, and I'll turn it back over to the two masters of ceremony, CJ Collins and Emerson Kilgore.
How's it going today, Mr. Allback? We are here to talk about mental health um, as it relates to sports. You know, a lot of emphasis is placed on being physical, being a tough guy or a tough young lady whenever it comes to sports. But we want to focus on the mental side of that, um, what you believe might ail our youth, what can help our youth, and just some general trends that you see today happening within sports. Not only in your time working in the athletic field, but even as a sports psychologist currently, what you see that troubles our youth. And with that, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to you to feed us knowledge that we can help our kids.
Okay, I just want to start off with like some statistical facts. According to research, 46% of teenagers are impacted with mental illness each year. 13% of children are impacted with mental illness each year, and then 19% also of the adult population is impacted with mental illness. Just kind of give you a little background of where mental illness is very vital to the mindset of individuals, and those not being addressed in early prevention can lead to mental illness as an individual and also as a student athlete. So, and with those untreated, mental illness can cause higher medical expenses, um, poor performance at school and at work, and also increases the chances of substance abuse and suicidal behavior. So I just want to start off with that, the research based on facts of the Society of Mental Illness. So with that being said, like that can impact the player's performance also in the classroom, outside the classroom, and then also the relationships between parents, coaches, and players always involve the mental aspect, not just only just being a performer on the field, off the field also.
And for our audience, can you tell them how long you've been in the sports psychology field and where you currently work so they can get an idea of what community that you're serving as of today?
Well, I live in Miami, so I work at a therapeutic environment where I work with geriatric clients, also with youth and adolescents too. And I do my own independent services based on mobile, face to face. But right now, through the pandemic, everything is more virtual. So, and I can be reached at my Instagram account, Bobby Hallback at Gmail. Also, my direct number is 561-248-3614.
And that is right. It's a great start for us as we lead into this. Uh, I guess the first thing that we want to dive into is is how do we bring more awareness? I think the first thing that a lot of people want to know is how do you get people to care about mental health when it relates to sports? Because everybody's so focused on winning. Everybody cares about, are you healthy to play or are you not healthy? Are you any good at your position or are you not? How do we get the masses, parents, coaches, and athletes to care about mental health?
It's called psychoeducation, psychoeducation based on bringing awareness to mental health and how important mental health is, because mental health is part of our daily functioning. It impacts our behavior, our thoughts, and our actions. So being educated about mental health would be the first and foremost, to get an understanding for players, parents, and coaches. It's mental health is more important than just like the physical component. You know, what the mind say, the body follows.
So, Bobby, I just want to say, I know this as a fact that dealing with mental illness, there is a stigma to that. I think that there's a lot of people that when they start talking about mental illness, when they start talking about, specific behavioral issues, they either want to just ignore it or just say it's not true or just something they need to work with. What do you say to those people that are just going to ignore anything that a professional like yourself says, or anyone that said, well, I don't need professional help, I'll just deal with this and move on. I think there's a lot of that. And to really talk specifically, I know that's a big stigma in the African American community that mental illness is not an issue that we have. That's more of a other race problem, another people's problem. And I personally feel it runs rampant in the African American community, and they have yet to. I mean, they're starting to. I won't say it yet, but I believe they're starting to deal with it and come to terms that you might need some more help outside of the talking to your parents or talking to your coach. What advice do you have for those who are just not? Just don't feel that mental illness is even real. There's even, even an issue to be dealt with, both in the community and in the athletic community.
In terms of that, Coach, the first thing I would advise, like players, parents, coaches, to allow the individual to identify signs and symptoms that may create mental illness, like anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, based on where you may be as an individual. Those are like indicators to figure out if there may be an issue. Then with the stigma behind it, it's like taboo, because as an African American community, generation of being able to denounce or not acknowledge that there may be mental health issues. And it's okay to have those symptoms and signs, but it's about just feeling comfortable and opening up and sharing with individuals. But as facts and research, it shows significant amount of numbers through the African American population that mental illness is a concern. I think it's just more a lack of understanding, lack of knowledge, and being able to get the opportunity to do like clinical interviews, clinical assessments to help further bring that individual to understand that there may be some underlying issues, and it's okay to admit that or have the thoughts of having those signs and symptoms.
Okay.
So it's like African American feel like they're strong, they feel tough, tenacious. That's great to have, but at the same time, you still can be strong, tenacious, and tough. But at the same time, you can have individuals that come in and help you continue to stay strong, safe, and tough. So it's all about just feeling comfortable with yourself and just opening up.
Okay. Thank you for that. The next question I have is kind of a double whammy for you here. What the next part of that is, so within all communities, women are more apt to get help in the medical field, in the mental field, more than men. I think that if it's broken down even further within all communities, I feel that is the case. So, and again, a lot of men carry the fact that, okay, I can deal with this, whatever I'm dealing with. I'm a man, as you spoke before. I am tough. My dad has told me this, or my uncle, whoever that male figure has told you that you don't need to get any help. Getting help is for weaklings. Only the weak seek that type of help if you can't deal with it. Oh, you just can't deal with the world issues. And I truly believe that is a big problem within the football community. I know, going back to my years of playing football, there was a few guys that needed help. Of course, I'll never mention names, but there were definitely some guys that is like, wow, he's, there's that football, there's that football mentality that you all have, but he just went a little bit above and beyond. And not just being hyper masculine either. It's just, you can just tell there's something off. You can tell there's some type of issue going on, or he had an issue coming up or whatever. How does the football community really address that? How does the football community really start to embrace the fact that some of our members do have mental illness issues, and they need to be dealt with? How do we take that first step?
The first thing to do, coach, is identify those symptoms and signs. There's no black or white, area. It's just about what you see and making
Mhm.
sure that you can identify those signs and pinpoint those signs. And then you get someone to kind of validate what you see and do like more like an assessment, get the coaches to feel comfortable talking about mental health issues and being educated about mental health issues that come along with the signs that they may see within the team, and also letting them know that it's okay to have mental health issues in terms of getting help, because you still can play and perform, but it's just about getting the help that you notice and what the players notice. And the coaches got to be comfortable about talking about mental health issues. And obviously, it's a generational of behaviors, that was learned as in like you're athlete, so you're a man, so you shouldn't have no weakness, you shouldn't have no vulnerability, you shouldn't be able to express your emotion. So it's like suck it up and keep it going. And that's where, that mold got to be broken to say it's okay to admit that I have these issues or possibility of having these issues. It's about admitting and acknowledging those feelings and signs and symptoms before you can go even further. That's why I say like psychoeducation is most important, in terms of educating players, bringing awareness to players and coaches, because coaches don't know, players don't know, in terms of what comes behind mental illness and the different layers of mental illness.
So in your opinion, what are some of the symptoms that that a coach, parent, teacher, organized leader can really pinpoint to have a discussion that something is wrong with this that's going on with student athlete? What are some of the signs, telltales?
Emotional outbursts like anger, attitude changes, appetite changes, substance abuse, the communication. Those are some of the indicators. Just having those moments of highs and lows, like you're up and then you're down. May have issues going on in the classroom, dysfunctional home settings, So those are the behaviors and signs that you can kind of start from there.
And then with that, Bobby, I know Emerson talked about teammates before, and I'm sure anybody in sports has kind of seen it. Um, how do you get somebody to be okay with themselves, to understand that they have a problem, but it doesn't mean that they can't be productive as an athlete, And then how do you also get, what words do you have to tell the teammates of somebody? Uh, hey, if you see somebody that needs help, you should bring attention to it. You're not hurting them. You're not hurting their athletic career. You're actually trying to give them help. What would you say to both people about the value of themselves or somebody that wants to help their friend or their teammate?
Well, in terms of that, it starts with talking to your teammate, identifying what you see, what's going on with your teammate, because what you see, he cannot see. He can feel internal what's going on, but outwardly, the behaviors that's being carried out. It's about like labeling those feelings and labeling those behaviors and action that you see as a teammate, and then building that trust. You're not going to open up to all your teammates, so you got to feel comfortable talking with your teammate or have some kind of trust in certain teammates. That's just like a captain of a team. Like obviously he's entrusted with all his teammates, so therefore you would say like any issue that may go on, they got, the captain may be the one to spearhead that conversation, or that teammate may come to that captain to talk about their situation. So it's about identifying and labeling those behaviors and emotions that you see, and also the individual that may have those symptoms and signs happening to him. He got to be comfortable with an individual to be able to talk about what's going on.
Bobby, one question I have for you. Now, this is kind of going towards the end of your sporting career. I think that my personal opinion, I feel that all these colleges and universities and the NCAA need to do a better job with how student athletes transition from the athletic world to the real world. I think that, and just to give you some stats, I think that most people should know this stat that 98% of, Division One football athletes do not make it to the NFL. There's a large percentage that want to go to NFL, obviously for the money, prestige, and all that. But the realistic view is only the top 2% move on. Now, I know that there's many, and I do say many because I've come in contact with them, there's many student athletes over the years that don't know how to deal with that. You know, they're told in college, yes, get your degree, but they're always going to hold out that, you know, I have a shot. I know I can make it. I know I can play in the NFL. I know I can do this. I know I can do that. You know, and they try out and nothing happens. They try out the next year and nothing happens. And they keep trying out. And, you know, their whole life is now revolving around this one opportunity that honestly, you know, it might come, but it might not. But honestly, your percentages of going to the NFL are even smaller once you're a couple years removed from the college setting. So, you know, and with that comes all the, you know, the emotions and the issues that, you know, that come with that of being a failure, of, you know, not making it like you wanted to. Like, you know, you idolize, I'll give you myself, for example, you know, I idolized Reggie White when I was growing up. And, you know, not that I had these issues for a little bit, but, you know, I didn't make it to the NFL. And, you know, I know that, you know, there are student athletes that were like this. You know, I wanted to be just like this person and just like that person. And it doesn't happen. And it begins to really destroy their self-esteem and really messes them up in terms of trying to get jobs and being accountable at your job, and, you know, just being, you know, being a good man to your, you know, or husband to your family and things along those lines. So how can we start addressing that? How can we really start working on the I hate to say the aftermath of sports, but really that second stage of, or that transition stage of going from being a student athlete and, you know, competing and trying to make it to the leagues, and that not happening? How can we work on that? How can we work with the athletes and with this transition?
Okay, Coach. Could I take it from the beginning to where you're talking about transition, right? So obviously, if parents are super involved with their kids with athletics, it don't matter what sport it is, parents are obligated to coach their kids along the way too, giving them advice about the transition of from grade school, middle school, high school, collegiate to the professional. You know, it can start from at home. You know, why they can already have that grooming in mind. You know, knowing that these are the opportunities that may happen. These are the things that possibly won't happen. What's your goal? What's your dream? How are you going to get there? And just being honest and upfront, you know, as in the transition from childhood to adolescence to adulthood. So when you come to the collegiate level, obviously these players or superstar athletes should already be educated about the transition of life, you know, after sports, whatever sports that may be. So it can start from the household, from the parents, prior to letting the coaches feel their responsibility. Because now the kids are being exposed from an early age as they continue to progress in their sports. But so when they get to the collegiate level, you know, some going to know that they had the opportunity to go first round, second round, or maybe late in the draft, but they already prepared mentally. And then with the professionals and the coaches that's involved with the athletic programs, they should have life career transition programs to help these players adjust from that. And obviously that can be a lot of stress and anxiety because the players feel like the pressure coming from families and friends and teammates that's making it, and they maybe feel like, wow, why I don't have the same status quo, or why I don't have the same prediction to make it, you know. So that's where it starts from, you know, the basics from home as a transition through life.
Those are great points. How do we address, you know, the youth athlete that may not make it to high school, that has to start that life after sports at that point? What are some of the tips that you can give parents so they can so the student athletes can refocus those energies back into something positive, and maybe transition to something else?
Well, you know, what you passionate about, you know, outside of football or outside of basketball, outside of what sports. You know, don't hang all your eggs in one bag. Like, think about becoming a teacher, becoming a coach, becoming a doctor, becoming a lawyer. You know, learn how to be balanced. It's called like versatile. You know, a student athlete got to be versatile. You just don't focus on just the sport that you love the most. Focus on your career, because you're gonna have a career after football. So parents should be more well-rounded and exploring and figuring out different talents and skill sets, not just as an athlete. Find the interest of their student first, you know, because they are students before they are athletes.
No, 100%. So after, you know, a parent or guardian recognizes that their student athlete has a problem and they're going through the phase of getting some type of help. Um, how does a family deal with that stigma? Because in a lot of communities, it's the guardians of these kids that they know the kid needs help. Whether it's I would say whether it's an educational support system or whether it's mental, they don't go ahead and do it because of they're worried about what other people think. How does how do we reshape our thinking, about that?
Coach, it was kind of low, Coach. I kind of caught some of your questions, but I know you're talking about retraining the mindset of individual and how parents can break the mode of feeling shameful or kids feeling shameful about admitting to having mental health issues and mental health concerns. So it's all about bringing education, talking about mental health and how it relates to sports. How important the mindset will be being an athlete at the same time. So it's about education, psychoeducation on mental health awareness.
And with the transition, right, and the wanting to bring awareness, are there people in particular that you would recommend that parents and athletes alike should reach out to in order to get help?
It could start from the organization that their kid may be playing for, like at school or Pop Warner. Having access to direct sources of mental health counseling, sports therapists. So that would be the starting point. And parents feeling comfortable initiating that process.
So, Bobby, one of the questions raised here is and I know I definitely jumped a little bit into in college and that transition, but even before college, when you're in high school, and again, it's the touchy part about this is that a lot of these kids have a lot of dreams and a lot of aspirations, and sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't. Um, what resources do high school athletes have when it comes to mental illness? Because I know through my experience here in Rhode Island that there's a lot of good coaches here now, but there's a lot of coaches that are kind of old school, and again they have that tough mentality, and you got to grit through it and things like that. And I know with these kids being younger, it's, they're more apt to be like, oh, maybe I can just deal with this because this is what my coach is saying. He's probably dealt with this and really hasn't said anything about it. And I believe the high school athletes will probably even more, they'll even more, hesitant to reach out and talk to people about this. So what advice do you have for these high school athletes when it comes to dealing with mental illness aspects?
Well, they can reach out to myself. They can reach out to the coaches, allowing the coaches to get an opportunity to seek professional guidance through the school or recommendation to like mental health centers in that community or within that region to where the kids can go get themselves assessed. It's called like a clinical assessment to get further information about what's going on with the individual internal, and coaches, the old school coaches, obviously that's the way they was brought up, but generation don't change. So they still caught up in that cycle. So they got to break the mold and they got to validate those players' feelings and concerns, and once again, coaches got to educate themselves now because they're not aware of their occurrence of changes that evolve over the generations. So that's what a coach. It's not the coach's fault by all means, but I think at this point in time, they got to be comfortable about educating themselves about mental illness. Obviously, for example, a player can get a concussion, wake up, he feel okay, but he's not okay. So those are indication of where mental health can start, like the loss of memories, concentration, focus. So that's definitely a major concern. And then the players coming to playing whatever sport they may be, They have psychological issues that occur outside of that sport, domestic homes, substance abuse, peer pressure, expectation to maintain a performance level.
Okay.
And Bobby, sticking with the coaches, not to say, like you say, that it's their fault or anything to that effect, but what can a coach do to promote a positive mental health on a team as a whole?
As in promoting that, it starts with the facts and research. Obviously, we know what's going on now in society, how a lot of professional athletes are coming out. Even though they're coming out now, it's better late than never. So, and coaches being aware of those professional athletes coming out, talking about it, and giving the opportunity to speak about it and letting the players know it's okay to have these symptoms and signs of mental illness. Just let us know so we can help you. And obviously, if the coaches don't know, they can reach out through their community, the schools. Now, a lot of schools are hiring mental health therapists, sports therapists, because of the mental health issue prior to this pandemic.
Bobby, one of the things I think, and I think a lot of this will definitely run through, coaching staffs here. And you hinted to this earlier. There's a lot of coaches that aren't prepared for this. There are a lot of coaches that just don't, they might not agree, they might not understand, they might not care, to be completely honest with you, about, the mental health of the athletes. I mean, there's a lot of coaches that listen, I don't care what goes on in your house. I don't care what goes on with your girlfriend. I don't care what goes on here. You get on this field, you practice, you play, and you perform. I know that is slowly starting to leave the world of sports, but there are still a lot of coaches like that. What are athletes to do when they're faced with that type of that type of coaching mentality? If they feel the kind of trapped, like they're just like, I can't reach out to my coach because he doesn't understand. And even to that point, if he's just trapped in a rock and a hard place, like he can't talk to his coach and he feels like he can't talk to his parents because his parents might feel the same way as that coach does. What are student athletes to do in that situation where they feel uncomfortable talking to both their coaches and a parent or a guardian?
Well, now you're setting the kid up to commit some suicidal thoughts, because he's stuck in a hard place, don't know which way to go. He can't trust his parents, can't trust his coach, he can't trust his guardian. So who else can he trust? Maybe if you have a girlfriend or a teammate, if that outlet's not there, now you're setting up suicidal thoughts because the kid is in a place where he don't feel comfortable going to the right or going to the left. So, in terms of that, the coaches are being selfish and the parents are being selfish too. Because keep in mind, over my experience in time as I continue to work with kids and parents, like a lot of time parents put this pressure on these athletes to perform because they're looking for them to win. To win meaning make it to the big leagues or make it to the pros. And then coaches have that same hope and mindset, and coaches are about winning. There's different levels of coaches too. You have egotistic coaches and you have mastery coaches, but I'm not going to get into that. But I'm just saying, those are signs also showing what kind of coaches that players may be playing for, which is detrimental to the player, but depending on what side the coach want to coach on.
And almost in a devil's advocate kind of way, to take it out of the coach's hand, Bobby, you have the players that have their own aspirations, because it becomes a bottom line deal. If I want that scholarship, like you said, I want to get to the big leagues, I can't allow these other things to get in the way. Uh, what do you suggest that a young athlete that has a lot that they're dealing with mentally, that they do in order to alleviate some of that that they have as we talk about these issues?
Coach, it had got a little glitch. Coach, could you kind of say the last thing before we got a glitch? Because I know you talked about the players having these aspect and aspiration, bottom line of them. So I just want to make sure I hear the whole question over again, please.
Yes. What would you recommend that they do to alleviate some of that stress off of themselves mentally? Because it
They
may not be somebody else that is that's causing it. It might just be their reality is they have a lot going on, but they still want a lot.
Yeah, and that's about talking about it, expressing what they feel, how they feel, writing down what they want to do, how they're going to get there, meditation, different things like that, expressing themselves, self expression, would be one of the things that they can identify with, and feeling comfortable and open up and sharing with someone. It don't always have to be a coach or a family member. It can be somebody else that can help them prioritize their goals and dreams and how they're going to get there, and don't feel like everything is on their shoulders. And a lot of time you have a lot of players put a lot of expectation and demand on themselves because they want that self-fulfillment. And also on the back end of it, they know if they make it big, they can take off a lot of stress from themselves, family members, and friends too. So a lot of external factor that goes into a player mindset too.
So, one of the things I want to talk about now is just the competitiveness in those sports and the mental ability to deal with that. I think one of the things that a lot of athletes, they kind of understand, but they don't. Like transitioning from a high school where you're the star athlete to college where you have the potential to be a star athlete, but you have a lot more competition you did in high school. I think that a lot of athletes realize that, okay, I was good where I came from, and now I'm really trying to push, and it's not happening right now. What strategies do you have to deal with that? Because again, that also takes a mental toll on these athletes. And, they come in and they have all the potential in the world, but they're doing everything possible. They're doing exactly what the coach is telling them, and things just aren't going their way. Just for whatever reason. If it's they're maybe a half a step slow, or it's literally just not their time yet. I mean, that does take a toll on these athletes, and a lot of them don't know how to deal with that. So, what strategies do you have to work with athletes that are currently dealing with that?
So in terms of the transition from high school, being a superstar, being that go-to guy, obviously the identity crisis they identify within that transition. Now that they're in that transition from high school to collegiate, now it's about admitting and acknowledging that, hey, these guys just as great as me. So now I need to figure out what I need to do to enhance my performance to be on that level. So you can study the guys in front of you. You can do more of your own self-evaluation, self-awareness, enhancing the skill set that you need to be able to perform on this level, and just admitting and being honest with yourself that, hey, look, I'm not great as what I thought it was, because now I'm in the jungle where everybody competing the same. So it's about awareness and feeling okay with the challenges. Now you got to challenge yourself. Now you got to be really self-driven to perform to a level where you can say, oh, okay, I'm here. So this is what it takes to be able to perform and earn that possibility of getting on the field or becoming a starter. So it's about self-awareness and identifying where you are to where you're trying to go. So I just talk with the players and just have them to be honest and admit what they see, that they like and dislike, and what we can do to improve that. Self-confidence, self-awareness, self-exploration.
So while we're coming down to the last couple minutes left of this series here, so I just wanted to give you the time to again address everyone here. Just let them know where you are, who you are, where you are, how they can reach you, and any other final words on the topic of mental health in sports.
First and foremost, it's okay to have like mental illness. It's okay to identify with those mental illness, because the more that you are aware of mental illness, as in within yourself or the community, you're going to help everyone, not just only yourself, because we've been suffering with this for too long, as a generation. Don't matter what color you are. It's just about just admitting to whatever issues and deficits and signs and symptoms that reflect mental health illness, so everyone can learn from it, help each other grow, and at the same time be willing to admit. It's about honesty and upfront, and break the barrier of feeling shame or feeling weak as an individual. So I'm located in South Florida, Miami Beach. You can reach me at my Instagram account, Bobby Hallback, and Facebook, Bobby Hallback, and my direct number, 561-248-3614.
Okay. CJ, anything else for Bobby?
No, man, this has been really powerful. Um, and I just hope that anyone that's out there listening, um, if you have some type of issues or you think you do want to talk to somebody, reach out to Bobby or someone like him in your community, or reach out to us and we'll point you in the right direction and get you to help you get the resources that you need so you can overcome and be empowered. That's all.
All right. Well, Bobby, I definitely want to thank you for really discussing a topic that is that's not discussed as much as it needs to, and it's honestly a very tough topic to talk about once you start talking about it. But I want to thank you for your expertise and thank you for your advice with some very, very tough topics, which I know that the listeners will definitely or hopefully use. I was definitely taking notes with this because I definitely want to be up with this when it comes to working with the mental wellness of student athletes here that I work with in Rhode Island and in Mass. So, but I just want to thank you on behalf of the Phenom staff for really taking the time to work with us and answer these questions.
I appreciate y'all and thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a good one.
You too.
Okay.
There's more to it than just the act. There's more to it than just the dealings of that. I mean, there are some profound issues when it comes to this as well, and that's something that no one talks about. I mean, we're slowly starting to discuss things now about mental illness and dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression, things like that. But I really feel there's a whole nother level to this, especially when it comes to that and how populating the world is the way some of these guys release some of their mental health issues. The one thing about boys being boys, but when you bring in anywhere from six kids and up with all these different women, I mean that's an issue. It's all for guys being guys and having fun. Like that's okay to an extent, but when you start bringing other kids and kids into lives into this planet, and you have no intention of caring for them or anything else, that continues the cycle of issues that we currently deal with now, and that's something that also needs to be addressed. Maybe that'll be the next one.
Absolutely, and this is why this is going to be a ongoing topic. This is not going to be the last. And folks, if you are tuning in, you are listening to the post recap of our mental health discussion with our esteemed staff members of Phenom Global Sports. So, we're getting ready to get prepared for our next panel discussion in the ever-changing world of recruiting. So we'll be right back.